I described it earlier today as a train that kind of went off the track. And we came here to work on the budget and on creating jobs for Minnesotans. Something happened, probably around the Easter break maybe. And I shared with you my concerns by the time the 28th of April came that unless we get really serious about this, we're not going to make it. Somehow, we got bogged down. We got bogged down in a social agenda. The House got bogged down on guns. Both bodies got bogged down on photo identification and abortion and gay marriage. And the budget almost seemed like it had become secondary. You know, just from the cheap seats where I'm watching from, not being one of the players in the game that has to put the deal together with the governor, and that's one of the challenges of being in the majority. You have to do that. That's your job. So from where I was standing, I had a little different view of the work that was being done than you did, those of you that had an obligation to be in the trenches and do the hard work and negotiate the difficult compromises that have to happen when you're going to reach an agreement in a difficult negotiations. And I spent a lot of time in my life negotiating labor contracts. And in just about every one I ever worked on, going back to 1978, the first one I ever sat on the committee across the table from contractors on, when those negotiations were concluded, both sides got up and walked away and were grumbling. And neither side was very pleased with the outcome, but they were okay. And the relationship was not damaged to the point where 2 or 3 years later we couldn't return to the table and negotiate again and try to reach an agreement again for an extension of another contract. And that's what I think I would like to caution you about, is when you take a winner-takes-all strategy and one side wins and one side loses, hard feelings develop. And then the next round, when you have to go back to the table to sit down again, someone comes to the bargaining table with hard feelings and a grudge to settle. That, I think, is what you have to think about between now and June 30th, or whenever a special session develops, is how do we get out of this without creating very, very hard feelings on the part of the players, so that someday when we come back to the table to do this all again, one side doesn't come to the table carrying a grudge.
I think when the history books are written, if there really are such a thing about the state legislature, about the Minnesota state legislature, I think they're going to look at the year 2011, and the chapter could be titled, probably will be titled, well, that's the year the women took over. That's the year the women took over. They called him Madam President and Chair Roebling and Chair Ortman and Chair Rosen and Chair Olson. And I think good things will come because of all those changes in names and titles. But I wanted to spend just a minute with all of you to recognize and honor our majority leader, who didn't know I was going to do this and probably doesn't want me to do this. But it's a little different in the back of the room with my seatmate. It's a little different from being up in the front row there. And I just wanted to thank Senator Koch on behalf of the members here for your grace and humor and the energy that you have brought to that chair, to that Senate floor, and to this entire chamber. And I think what I'm most proud of about Senator Koch, Amy, as we all call her, is that she's not just the majority leader of 37. That's an important role. She does it very well. But I think to a member, everyone on this floor feels like she is accessible and open to all 67 members. And so we thank you and we salute you for that, Senator Koch. And I do hope to get to spend a little more time with my daughters over the next couple weeks. And the one thing that I've heard from them over the last couple months is that they now have a new role model. That my 4 daughters now have a new role model, and they call that role model Amy.
I would like to thank the Senate Majority staff, who, like me, all had to learn and adapt to new rules, roles, responsibilities, and expectations. We were issued a challenge by the voters. We accepted, and we delivered accordingly. Thank you. I'd offer a sincere thanks to and appreciation of the Senate DFL. Effective and honest government depends on fairness, transparency, and accountability for the majority and the minority parties. Thank you, Senator Bakk. The members of the DFL have demonstrated that they are important and effective advocates for their priorities. I'd like to take a special moment to acknowledge someone who is not with us tonight, and that's Senator Linda Scheid. I don't know if she's watching, but Linda, we miss you. I'd like to thank my family, without whom I would not be able to continue on this journey. I'm looking forward to getting home to my daughter. Everyone here knows how difficult it is to leave our loved ones back home and come to do this important work and that we're sent here to do. And we can't do it without them. Ladies and gentlemen of the Minnesota Senate, thank you for your willingness to serve the citizens of Minnesota in this body, although we have a long road in front of us. I want to thank you for your service, your commitment to the Minnesota State Senate. To Governor Dayton, we all respect your service to the people of Minnesota and the commitment of your staff in serving us, and you've done an outstanding job, and I appreciate working with you. Members, I'd like to get you a text that I got from home, my daughter. It's Winston Churchill. Good night, then. Sleep to gather strength for the morning will come, and brightly will shine on the brave and the true. Good night, brave and true.